Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. I am G2. This is the episode where I talk about everything that happened in the world of professional wrestling, whether it comes from the world of WWE, TNA, AEW, and especially with AEW having their Full Gear pay-per-view. If you're listening to this episode on a Saturday, tonight, by the end of this episode, I'll be giving you guys my AEW Full Gear predictions. And let's just start off with the show. TNA isn't really much to really talk about. There was no really storylines to be further developed on. I mean, you had Masha Slamovich going against Alicia Edwards in a no disqualification match for the TNA Knockouts Championship. Masha Slamovich would retain it. This means Masha will be defending said TNA Knockouts Championship against Jordan Grace at their TNA special that's going to be on their TNA Plus app this upcoming, I want to say Thursday or Friday of next week. You didn't get any further storyline developments between Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. This was a more wrestling-based episode of TNA. Same thing with next week. Next week's going to be their TNA episode where they're bringing out matches that they had in the vault that they recorded. So don't expect any TNA recap from me next week on next week's Wrestling Highlights of the Week episode. But this is basically their end of the year business. They're going to basically be having a couple of matches, nothing really to further certain storylines, and the storylines they probably will be developing is probably after their Thanksgiving TNA special that they will be having on their TNA app. But again, TNA really didn't have much of storyline based this week, so there's nothing really to talk about with TNA. So that's TNA out the way. I do want to move over into WWE. I usually do AEWs, but since AEW has a pay-per-view, I'll save them for last because I do have something to say about them. WWE this week, again, real digestible, real fast, real easy. I'll go with NXT. NXT, they're still building towards their NXT deadline event. And at the time right now, for the men's Iron Survivor Challenge, you have Wesley, you have Javon Evans, you have Nathan Frazier. Next week, you'll have Axiom going against Ethan Page to see who will take the fourth man spot. And then we'll have a fifth spot that still needs to be partaked. I have an idea for that. For the women, you have Sol Ruka, you have Stephanie Vacour, and you have Zyra in the women's Iron Survivor Challenge. And next week on NXT, you'll have Kalani Jordan going against Julia. I have a feeling Julia's going to win that. Stephanie Vacour, she got her slot in the match by beating Jada Parker. And Zyra, she defeated, I believe, Ren Sinclair. So here's my thing. I'm surprised that they put Jada Parker against Stephanie Vacour. I see what they're trying to do here, especially with Julia going against Kalani Jordan. You want the women that aren't as proficient in the ring as a Julia or Stephanie to be in the ring with someone like that, to have that under your belt and for them to kind of teach you the ropes better in the ring. And I'm not trying to say that in a bad way, because Kalani Jordan and Jada Parker, they work well for what they do. Kalani being a gymnast, she knows how to do high flying moves. She does that in her repertoire in the ring. With Jada Parker being I believe she's a athlete of a soccer player in her past life before WWE, she works well with the speed of running the ropes and using her bottom half of her body. So she's able to do what she does. But I think with being in the ring with a Stephanie Vacour and a Julia, especially for those two ladies, it's going to help them get better in the ring and basically sharpen up their wrestling skills. So I see why you did that with them. I thought Jada Parker was going to be in this against nobody, but once I saw her going against Stephanie, I was like, oh, okay, Stephanie's going in here. But yeah, they usually do for the fifth person to come in. They'll probably have all the people that lost their previous matches to get a slot, like their, what did I call it? The final shot to get into the match. Because at this point of this right now, Sol Ruka, she defeated, Cora Jade. Stephanie Vacour, she defeated Jada Parker. Zyra, she defeated Ren Sinclair. I already know they're going to put Julia in, so that'll be Kalani Jordan getting that spot. And they'll probably put a mystery fifth person in that just to see if they can get that spark in there. I don't know who this person might be. They might go with those four, but I think they'll put a mystery person in there just to kind of add something in that. But they'll probably do that for the last spot for the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge determinator for that. For the men, Wesley, he won his match, I believe, going against Cedric Alexander. Javon Evans, he defeated Alexis King. Nathan Frazier, he defeated Eddie Thorpe. I have a feeling that they're going to put Ethan Page in this because right now you got nothing but high flyers because Wesley, high flyer, Javon Evans, high flyer, Nathan Frazier at high flyer. You got to break up the high fly speed action with someone that has power game. So I think they're going to put Ethan Page in this need to defeat Axiom. So for the last slot for the men's Iron Survivor, I think they're going to have Axiom, Cedric, Lexis King, Eddie Thorpe, and my pick, I think they're going to have a returning Obafemi pop into this because we have not seen Obafemi since losing to Tony D'Angelo, I want to say at No Mercy. We haven't seen him since then. Or, nope, not No Mercy. It was Halloween Havoc. We haven't seen him since then. And I think the next step for Obafemi, instead of going to the main roster, is to go after that NXT championship. And I think that would be the perfect position for him. So I think they'll probably have him slide it into that fifth spot for the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge, but we'll have to wait and see with that. Another big thing that happened on NXT was Ridge Holland going against Andre Chase. Winner will be facing off against Trick Williams at Deadline for the NXT Championship. Also, the caveat to this match was if Ridge Holland did defeat Andre Chase, Chase U would have to disband. There will be no more Chase U. Now, I did like how whenever they opened up NXT, you saw in the crowd people wearing Chase U colors, the red and black. People were wearing Chase U shirts. Certain people weren't wearing Chase U shirts, but they were wearing a plain red shirt or a plain black shirt, excuse me. And again, it was nothing but support for Andre Chase. So I like how they had that already laid out in front of everybody's eyes as soon as NXT started. And as NXT would continue to begin going throughout the show, they would show montages of highlights of Chase U and how much Chase U really means to people in NXT, like Thea Hale, Duke Hudson, what's my man's name? The other guy, the British guy, Riley Osborne. How much it means to them and how much Andre Chase has helped them in NXT. But we get to the match, ultimately. Ridge Holland would win. He would hit the Redeemer onto Andre Chase to get the win. Trick Williams, he was on commentary. Duke Hudson, Thea Hill, Riley Osborne, they were out there. And at different times, you had them basically interfere to kind of countercept Ridge Holland doing dirty deeds in this. Because at one point, Ridge tried to get a chair into the ring. The referee took it away from him, and you saw Ridge kick Andre Chase in the nuts. He hits the Redeemer on him. He gets the pin. 1, 2. Duke Hudson comes running out, pulls the referee out. You start seeing Duke doing battle with Ridge. They get outside the ring. Let's do battle again, and then you see Ridge like ram Duke Hudson into like the platform of NXT that's always right next to the commentator's booth. So Duke's out of the way there. Thea Hill's out there. She's chastising Ridge for what he's doing. And you see Riley Osborne come out. He hits a high-flying move out of the ring onto Ridge outside and start beating up on Ridge. Throw him into the ring. Beat him up some more. Ridge would get enough. Use his power to toss Riley out from inside the ring to outside the ring, landing onto concrete that was exposed, that Ridge exposed earlier in the match with Andre Chase. So you had Andre Chase students right here of Duke, Riley, and Thea try to, again, counteract Duke Hudson's dirty deeds and tried to work in the favor of Andre Chase, but just in the end, it just didn't work. Andre Chase didn't get the job done. Ridge Holland would win. Trick Williams was on commentary when seeing all this, so Trick knows he'll be facing off against Ridge at Deadline for the NXT Championship. Me, again, being a guy that has been watching NXT for a long period of time since they've been to the WWE Network, and from then moving to USA, moving from Black and Gold era, which was super indie motivated, to back to the basics of NXT 2.0 with characters and things like that, to now them refocusing back to being one of the best in-ring products that WWE has under their umbrella. Andre Chase Universe, Andre Chase, Chase U, they were a part of the NXT 2.0. They were the character-based driven, funny stable down there in NXT. And I said last week, I knew they were going to do the Ridge Holland going against Trick Williams thing. I already knew that was going to happen. But for me, and I think people that have been watching NXT for a long period of time, and people that probably popped in during the NXT 2.0 era, I think it would have been a nice little tip of the cap for them to do Andre Chase versus Trick Williams. Again, I'll reiterate what I said last week. It would have been great because if you look at both Andre Chase and Trick Williams, where they came from when they came into NXT and where they're at now, is completely different. Trick Williams, again, he was the hype man for Carmelo Hayes. He was the second hand in command for Carmelo Hayes. You didn't think at the time, and I don't care what no one says, you look back at what Trick Williams did then, you don't think he would be the man running NXT. Yes, he had charisma. Yes, he had the flash, but my man did not have the in-ring skills the way that he does now. And again, with that, it comes years of growth and constantly practicing your craft. That's what makes you better at what you do. So that's what get Trick Williams to be where he is right now. But if you look back at NXT 2.0, I don't care who you are. Nobody saw Trick Williams in the trajectory, the way in which he is now. Nobody saw that. And that's not a knock on him. That just proved that he went far and beyond what anybody expected him to do. Which, again, great on him. You look at Andre Chase. Andre Chase comes in. He's doing the whole annoying professor stuff, Chase U stuff. Again, they were the comedy act of NXT character stuff. They'll be inserted here and there. But as the years will go on, you see Andre Chase being able to turn a gambler like Duke Hudson, who, when we saw Duke Hudson come into Andre Chase U University, we thought my man was going to end up turning on them and stabbing them in the back. And ultimately that didn't happen. He was able to rehabilitate a guy like Duke Hudson and make him be a good guy, and people actually trust Duke Hudson. Someone like Thea Hale, someone coming off of the indies, getting signed to WWE. They did a whole, what college is she going to, because she was so young. I believe they signed her at the age of 17 or early 18. And they did a whole thing because she was just literally graduating high school when they signed her. And they did a whole vignette of what college she's going to, and she ended up picking Chase U. So we get the whole storyline of Thea Hale being in Chase U, her growth, and all that stuff with her. And then you get Chase U with the whole gambling debt, losing the university, bringing in Ridge Holland, Ridge having to get the university back and try to bring forth spirit for Andre Chase, bring camaraderie back to Chase U, and bring back not just faith but belief in Andre Chase that he lost from Thea Hale. I mean, Chase U was a nice, always stable foundation in NXT that you could always go to try to throw someone in or have something to do with Chase U. But for now, you see Chase U's done. Chase U's over. So now it leads you to question, what's Andre Chase going to be doing? What's Duke Hudson going to be doing? What's Thea Hale going to be doing? What's Riley Osborne going to be doing? What are these four different characters who, when you look at them, they have nothing in common? But when you put them under the umbrella of the Chase U, they gave them something to fight for. What are they going to be doing now? Thea Hill, she's going to be jumping into the NXT Women's Division and having to battle with these Sharks there, which I think is going to be a great growth thing for her. Duke Hudson, him and Andre Chase probably could team up. Him and Riley Osborne could team up, do something. Riley Osborne, he could probably do his own thing. They'll probably have to repackage him as a character for something else, but I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with Duke. I don't know what they're going to do with Andre Chase. I see something that I can see them doing something with Riley and Thea, but Duke and Andre, I don't know. They should probably put them as a tag team. Who knows? But again, man, just for them to kill off Chase U, we all knew it was coming. I thought they would have did it at Halloween Havoc, but they didn't do it then. And they did that here. Again, man, it's just something else that you don't really think about until you start thinking about what Chase U really means to NXT 2.0 and NXT as a whole, and what the foundation, not of the original NXT, but the rebuilding stages of NXT 2.0 to now, what Chase U really means and what it did for certain individuals. But yeah, that time in NXT for Chase U is over, and I just have to wait and see what they do with Andre Chase and Duke Hudson, to be honest, and the rest of them, Thea and Riley. But I have faith they're going to do something with Riley and Thea. Andre Chase, Duke Hudson, not so much, just to be honest. But those were the really important stuff that happened on NXT. I mean, you still got the NXT tag team division still cooking, because when Nathan Frazier went against Eddie Thorpe, you had the tag teams out there brawling, because Nathan Frazier is one half of the tag team champions. So again, tag teams want that tag team shot there. You had Fallon Henley throw out an open challenge to women to come out there to try to challenge for her NXT Women's North American Championship, which led to Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, Nikita Lyons come running out. Nikita would get hit from the back by Adriana Rizzo, because Rizzo's not done with Nikita for taking her out a couple weeks ago. Brawl would ensue then, and then as Fallon's left alone in the ring by herself, she would get attacked by Tatum Paxley, and Tatum wants that NXT Women's North American Championship. And that's something I would like to make mention to here. NXT, Shawn Michaels, he has been cooking, bro. From the tag team division, from the women's division, from the main event stuff. He is nailing everything that you want to see from a wrestling company. Your tag team division on fire, tag teams being motivated, brawling just to get a shot at the tag team titles. Nailing it. The women always being on television, throwing them on there, making sure they're a pivotal point of the television. He's giving you it every week. Done and done. The heavyweight stuff for the NXT Championship, always making sure that that's always in some type of storyline, always making sure that is a point to make sure that everyone understands. He's nailing it there. Even with the little mini feuds that doesn't have anything to do with titles. Like just recently, Wesley, Javon Evans, they had that business. Wesley and Zachary Wentz, their business there. Javon Evans having this thing right now or previously, because they still can bring it back up, of him being quote unquote the young guy in NXT, being given all these positions, and he just coming up short. Again, there is all these little things that Shawn Michaels is hitting that somehow, and I don't mean to say this in the wrong way, somehow other companies and I'm not even saying other companies, AEW and WWE on the main roster, more on Raw side, can't seem to nail. Shawn Michaels is able to do it with NXT, and it's for a 2-hour show. He's able to do it. Now, could that be because Shawn Michaels only has to answer to Triple H and not technically CW, or he has a good relationship with CW and CW is real lenient and let Shawn does what he does? I don't know, because I don't work in TV like that. I would love to really have a conversation with Shawn, because again, I think he does great work in NXT. Seriously, because when you look at all the things that you're supposed to nail, he's nailing every single one, and somehow the main roster on Raw can't do it. SmackDown, they're able to do it. AEW, they're having a problem with certain some of the stuff, like the women's division, they're having a problem with that. I'll get to that in a minute with AEW. And the tag team, they're just starting to cook that up again. But Shawn is able to nail it. So again, Shawn Michaels, great job with NXT. I think I'm going a little bit long with it on NXT, but you get my point. NXT, you need to watch it, CW, whether it's on the CW app or if you can watch it on your CW television station whenever it's on Tuesday, go ahead and watch CW. NXT on CW, please, because this is a good show. Anyway, moving off of NXT, let's go over into the main roster of WWE. I already talked about it on last week's episode, how Raw was taped last week. So nothing about it caught me off surprise this week. This week on Raw, again, you had Rhea Ripley popping back up. She pops back up with a mask on her face because I believe her orbital bone got broke. So that's the reason why she has a mask on her face. She comes out to make the save for Jade, Bianca, Naomi, and Io off of Nia, Tiffany, Raquel, and Liv. So it seemed that we had our women's, again, War Games match set up with the teams, when it was going to be Nia, Tiffany, Raquel, Liv, and Candice going against Jade, Cargill, Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Naomi. But when you go to SmackDown, you see that all changed, because when Bianca Belair was in her women's United States Championship qualifying matchup in the tournament, it was a triple threat match. Bianca, Chelsea Green, Blair Davenport. You saw whenever Bianca is basically getting the win, as she was about to make the pin, they will show on the Titantron, Jade is laid out on a car, so Bianca leaves the ring to run off to check on her friend. Chelsea Green, she would get the win, so Chelsea Green does advance into, I want to say, the semifinals for the women's United States Championship tournament, because she'll be going against Bayley, I presume, next. Not next week, but in the landscape whenever she has to wrestle again. So Jade is effectively out of the women's War Game match. And later in the night, we kind of see what we're going with this here. We kind of see who's going to be the person to step up and be taking her spot, because Naomi and Bayley will have a match. And they will have a match against Candice and Tiffany Stratton. And during that match, Nia Jax would interfere. This led to everybody coming out. Once again, you had Liv, Raquel, coming out to help out Nia, Tiffany, and Candice. You had Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley getting just straight up just tromped out by the Bad Girls. Then Rhea Ripley comes out to make the save with the kendo stick. Was able to hit Candice and Raquel with it. Liv, Tiffany, and Nia were able to escape. So you can kind of see where we're going with this with Survivor Series. You're going to have, for the women's side, you're going to have Bayley taking the spot of Jade Cargill, teaming up with Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io, and Rhea to go against Nia Jax, Liv, Raquel, Candice, and Tiffany Stratton. And the funny thing about this is that the women is just like the men's War Games, because on the women's side, you have an interesting dynamic of Bianca not trusting Bayley. Bianca's been not trusting Bayley for a long period of time. Yeah, ever since Bianca basically made it to the main roster, Bayley has constantly been picking at Bianca. Constantly picking at her and picking at her and picking at her, even creating damage control to try to take the women's title off of Bianca. I believe that was in 2022. And then you had now where at the early part of the year, Bayley ends up turning a new leaf. Damage control turns on her. Bayley is being warm recepted by Naomi, who Naomi's a close friend to Bianca, and Bianca isn't jiving with Bayley. So now we have that little piece of business there. Will Bianca be able to stand Bayley now being on the women's team? And it hasn't been confirmed that Bayley will be taking Jade's position, but you kind of already could tell, because they only got one more week until Survivor Series. Next week's their go home show for Raw and SmackDown. So they got no other choice but to put Bayley in that spot. So again, ta-da. So it's going to be real interesting to see how Bianca and Bayley work together, because you know Naomi's going to try to make Bianca realize that, hey, Bayley's on our team. You need to trust her if we're going to have a chance to beat Nia and her team. So again, I can't wait to see how that works on either Raw and SmackDown next week. So that's cool with that. For the men's Survivor Series War Games match, you know what time it is original Bloodline versus the new Bloodline. As I said last week, we saw Bronson Reed teaming up with the new Bloodline because he aligned himself with them on SmackDown last week when they annihilated Roman Reigns and the Usos and Sami Zayn. So this week on Raw, the OG Bloodline, Sami and the Usos, no Roman Reigns, tried to recruit Seth Rollins. Seth said point blank he's not doing it. He was not going to help them. He was not going to team up with the tyrant Roman Reigns. He still remembers all the bad stuff that Roman Reigns did to him, which I find funny because people have pointed out online that Roman Reigns has never, and I want to say this again, never turned on Seth Rollins. It was always Seth Rollins constantly stabbing Roman Reigns in the back, whether it be the Shield breakup the first time, with obviously Seth hitting both Roman and Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley in the back with a steel chair, which broke up the Shield then, or when Roman Reigns was the Universal Champion. I want to say again, this was during 2022 when Roman needed a challenger for his belt at Royal Rumble, and you had Seth being literally the visionary and the menace, that character at that point, top level Seth Rollins character work, literally knocking on the door in the melody of the Shield tone to walk in and basically declare that he's the next guy to go against Roman at the Royal Rumble. Then to them having their whole war of words leading up to the Royal Rumble, and then at the Royal Rumble, what happens? Seth Rollins comes out and still torments Roman Reigns by wearing the Shield gear and coming out to the Shield music and walking through the same way that the Shield used to do through the crowd. Still tormenting Roman Reigns to the point we fast forward to this year's WrestleMania. What happens? He teams up with Cody Rhodes. Yeah, cool. Team up with Cody. Do whatever you want there. But whenever it's down to Cody versus Roman on night 2, what does he do? We get the whole Shield entrance music once again. Seth Rollins comes out in the Shield gear again to torment Roman Reigns, to make Roman take his eye off the ball of Cody and hit Seth in the back with the chair, which effectively leads to Cody winning the WWE title off of Roman Reigns. So again, Seth Rollins saying that Roman Reigns has constantly betrayed him and all the foul things that Roman has done to him. Nah. Seth is completely in the wrong for this. Roman is the good guy in the story of Seth and Roman Reigns. It's just what it is. But Seth told them, no, I'm not teaming up with you guys to help Roman. Not at all. So during the main event, yes, the new Bloodline will come out there to try to intimidate Seth Rollins, was led to Sami and the Usos coming out to take out Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. Towards the end of the match with Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins, when Seth has the upper hand, he's on the top rope. You see Solo Sikoa stand on the commentary table, distracting Seth. This leads to Bronson getting Seth, hitting a Death Valley driver, 2 sentons, then the tsunami. And then this allowed Bronson to get the win. So now we move over to SmackDown. Everybody's there. The new Bloodline's in the ring. Solo's there. He has a mic telling Roman Reigns point blank, hey, I still love you. I love you and I love Sami. I love the Usos. I never stop loving you guys. You guys have no fifth guy. You guys need to come out here and acknowledge me and join me, because we could run this company for decades to come. Because if you don't, you're going to get slaughtered. Point blank. So, towards the end of the night, the new Bloodline comes out once again. The OG Bloodline comes out. Solo, once again, reiterates to Roman, hey, You just got to acknowledge me, and we won't have the match at Survivor Series, and you won't get slaughtered. Solo hands Roman the mic. Roman looks down and out because he doesn't have his wise man. He tried to call Paul Heyman up last week to when SmackDown was ending. Didn't get no call answer because apparently Paul wasn't answering the phone. You heard the voicemail saying that this number is not in service. So you look like Roman's going to kind of like give in because, again, he looks sad. And then out of the blue, you hear ladies and gentlemen, and the crowd pops. Roman Reigns' face hits a shock of awe. And out walks Paul Heyman wearing a black suit with red shirt and red handkerchief. And the reason why I'm telling this is because he's coming out to the OG Bloodline color scheme. This is something that Paul Heyman has never done during his time, even with Roman Reigns as they were building the Bloodline. He was always wearing like a pinstripe suit or a blue suit. Never ever a straight up black suit with red or something like that. Never did it. So it was real interesting for him to do that here. So Paul comes out. He says, I would like to apologize for not being around. You know, getting power bombed through an announce table at Madison Square Garden, it kind of puts a ding on you a little bit. And he ultimately tells Solo point blank, you can't have war games with 5-on-4. So it's not going to be 5-on-4. It's going to be 5-on-5. And then he points at the entrance stage and out walks CM Punk. CM Punk comes running down to the ring. The crowd's excited. Everybody knows what time it is. And everyone knows what the outcome of this is going to be. Or at least we think what we know is going to be. So we get a brawl. The OG Bloodline teaming up with Punk, doing battle with the new Bloodline. They're taking care of the new Bloodline. They're literally just beating them up, getting them out of the ring. And once Solo and all the other guys are out of the ring, except for Roman and CM Punk, they have a stare down. And they just look at one another. The camera shot is so good that they got Roman on one side, Punk on the other side, Paul Heyman standing outside the ring looking at this, and he has like a little, like, Paul Heyman style of smile on his face. And you know that this is money. This is something that we kind of wanted to see since Punk got into WWE once again. But again, I'll stop it there. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa would get in the ring. Punk would get Tama Tonga on the shoulder and hit the GTS, while Roman Reigns would hit Tonga Loa with the spear. So now all the new Bloodline has been taken care of. We're back to Roman and Punk staring at one another. The new Bloodline guys not new Bloodline, but the OG Bloodline of the Usos and Sammy would get in the ring and stand behind Roman. Paul Heyman would get on the apron. We get to stare down once again of Roman and Punk. And Roman just mouths and says, what are you doing here? And Punk mouths back to him, I'm not here for you. And he points at Paul saying, I'm here for him. And Roman just nods his head and says, for one night. So we got our men's team set up. 5-on-5 War Games at Survivor Series. The OG Bloodline with CM Punk going against the new Bloodline. And it's real interesting, just how I said, the women got their can you trust them dynamic. The men got their can you trust them dynamic with Roman and CM Punk. Which I think you can, because what ties Roman and CM Punk together is Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was the guy that made sure that Punk would not get touched by the Bloodline. Because if you remember, when Roman Reigns was gone, and Solo was the guy who was manning this Bloodline when Paul was by his corner, scared might I add, but still by Solo's corner, and Punk was out there and Solo wanted him to be acknowledged by Punk. Paul told him, hey, you remember, Roman gave me two orders. One, make sure CM Punk doesn't get touched, because Paul put that into request for Roman Reigns, because Punk and Paul have a nice friendship that they share with one another, which the WWE fans know about. And the other one was, make sure Cody is looked at because Roman wanted the title off of Cody. But again, Cody part, we'll get to that whenever the time comes. But right now we're dealing with CM Punk. Paul making sure that Punk never got touched by the bloodline. That is extremely interesting. I said it then when I covered it then, and I'll say it now. It brings it back to that. So Paul, Roman, and Punk is going to be a nice, interesting dynamic, especially with who's going to be the ring general when Survivor Series comes rolling around next week. Because if you remember, the original bloodline, Roman Reigns was always the in-ring general. He was the guy that not made the plays, but he was the guy that told the guys how to execute the plays and go out there and do it. Especially in their first war games that the bloodline had against the Brawling Brutes. Now with Punk being here, Punk's not going to want to take any type of crap from Roman Reigns. He's not going to. So it's going to be real interesting to see how those two are really going to be butting heads and the aftermath. Because you know Seth Rollins is going to be seeing this. Seth's going to hate it. You know Drew McIntyre, he's going to be seeing this. And Drew, he's going to probably play a part in this, probably at Survivor Series. Because here's my little funky thing I can see happening. If you look at the new bloodline, and you look at the OG bloodline, new bloodline is literally flipping what the OG bloodline did on their head. For example, Solo Sikoa is being Roman Reigns without the Roman Reigns aura and attributes that Roman Reigns was able to do. Jacob Fatu, he is a more menacing right-hand man than what Solo Sikoa was in the OG bloodline position. Tama Tonga Tangaloa, they are a tag team, a brother tag team, just like the Usos. However, they're not in the WWE experience ways the way that the Usos are. Even though they had experience in New Japan, you can look at what they've done in WWE, it's just not the same. So again, you flip it on their head. And who right now is the honorary Us for the new bloodline? They don't have one right now. People might say, oh, it's Bronson Reed. I think Bronson Reed is going to go back to be doing Bronson Reed after this is done. I can see Drew McIntyre come in and be part of this new bloodline. Just to, one, get back at Roman Reigns. Two, make sure he gets at CM Punk, because I think Drew McIntyre is not done with Punk. I think that would be a rivalry that would really be on our hands for a long period of time, for as long as Punk's able to continue to keep going. So it's real interesting to me. Survivor Series has a lot of moving parts, because we can see Seth pull out and could do something next week. We can see Drew McIntyre pop back and do something next week. Again, a lot of interesting dynamics there, but WWE, they're really cooking with Survivor Series. Also added with that, on SmackDown, you had Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens have they didn't have a face-to-face, but they came close, because Cody was in the ring, Kevin was in the crowd, and then he moved his way onto the top of the commentary table. And long story less long, Cody is getting at Kevin Owens for saying, yo, dog, you are wrong. What you've been doing is wrong. You are blaming me for what you're doing. You're blaming me for teaming with Roman Reigns. No, you want to be the victim so much. You're not the victim. You are the only person holding you back. And he cites back how at Bash in Berlin, he had the opportunity to go after Cody's leg. Kevin Owens didn't do that. And Kevin Owens made himself look weak, and that's what made Cody basically retain his WWE Championship. And Kevin Owens, not since then, but he's always held some chip on his shoulder for not pulling the trigger. And it's just basically been adding on, and just saying that Cody teamed up with Roman Reigns, which made Kevin Owens do all these nasty things. That's a lie. You're using me as an excuse, as a scapegoat. No, you are the only person that's able to hold you back. And he tells Kevin, listen, you've been in WWE for a decade. You are a Grand Slam champion. You are one of the best guys WWE's had in recent history. But you are constantly obsessed with trying to be the WWE champion, trying to be the number one guy. And you got to understand that this is a whole team effort here. Which, when Cody said that, I find it funny because when you look at Cody's trajectory as well, Cody kind of was on the Kevin Owens path himself. He was on a path of destruction. He said this on his own interviews from time to time. He wanted to be the top guy in WWE, felt he was obsessed with it. And so I see Kevin Owens being like a Cody in his past life if Cody would have just stayed with WWE and gotten some kind of shots that Kevin Owens would have gotten. I can see basically Cody talking to Kevin like how he would have talked to himself. So he's basically talking to himself in the mirror here. I like that. Long story less long, Cody tells Kevin, I want to get my hands on you, whether it be here, whether it be at Survivor Series or Saturday night's main event, I'm going to get my hands on you. So we have not made that match official at Survivor Series yet. So far, there's only been 3 matches made for Survivor Series. The 2 War Games matches, the men and the women, and Gunther and Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. So those are the big important things that happen on WWE this week. Like I say, real digestible, real easy to get to. I'm going to move over to AEW. AEW this week, their go-home show was real piss poor in my personal opinion, to the fact that I even went to sleep towards the end of their show. I like what they're doing with Swerve and Bobby. Let's not get it twisted. I like what they're doing there. I like that they had Bobby debut. I would have saved that for Full Gear instead of him going against a 2-on-1 handicap match against Ring of Honor's Cheeseburger and Joe Keys. I would have had Bobby make his debut at Full Gear officially just against Swerve and let that be the thing. But hey, cool, whatever. Swerve, throughout the night, he was getting his get back on the Hurt Syndicate because when the Hurt Syndicate came out their car and MVP announced that Bobby was going to have his first match at AEW, you saw Swerve come out of nowhere and pop Bobby in the head with a chained fist. So that was that. You saw MVP and Shelton try to hunt down Swerve in the night, and they end up catching a guy in Swerve's jacket, thinking it was Swerve, but it wasn't. After Bobby's match, Swerve's music would hit. Nana would come out with a chair. This was distract MVP as Shelton was going after Nana, and this allowed Swerve to come from underneath the ring to go after Bobby, go at his knees, hit him with a house call kick, hit him with the Swerve stomp, and then leave the ring without being touched. So again, it adds more momentum to their match at Full Gear. But other than that, everything else on Dynamite was because you had Jay White and Juice Robinson going. No, that was last week. You had Claudio and Darby going against one another, which was all right, cool. You had in the main event Orange Cassidy going against Wheeler Yuta. You had Mina Shirakawa and Mariah May have their backstage business saying that they're going to have Maria's championship celebration finally at Full Gear. Okay. You had Chris Statlander have her match, and then after the match was over, you had Camille and Mercedes Moné come out. Camille's in a arm sling, and Mercedes being a MJF and just ruthlessly telling Camille to go in there to go after Chris. Chris would beat up on Camille. Mercedes would try to attack Camille from behind, try to get her in the bank statement, but nope. Camille was able to reverse that and hit the Saturday Night Fever, and pose with the TBS Championship. I feel that they should have did something better. This go-home show was not the greatest. I think AEW needs to tighten up. I get it. It's that we're coming close to the end of the year. You feel that you could be, I'm not going to say sloppy because I have respect for that business. I have respect for what they do. It is hard to write television weekly, especially with AEW and their remodeling and reshifting phase that they're in. I get it, but this go-home show just wasn't it. They even had the 8-man tag at the beginning of the show. Ricochet, Ricochet, Will Ospreay, Mark Davis, and Powerhouse Hobbs going against Kyle Fletcher, Konosuke Takeshita, Brian Cage, and Lance Archer. Solid 8-man tag, even though at the end, I did like that when Will Ospreay was going for the hidden blade, Kyle Fletcher kind of yanked Mark Davis to get in his way. So Mark ate the hidden blade from Will, because that's going to add something towards the Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay match at Full Gear. I get it, but yeah, dog, you guys need to do better. I don't know who wrote that. I don't know what it was, but AEW Go Home Show was not it, but it wasn't it at all. I need to see some brawls. I need to see people just bloody up before the pay-per-view happens. I need to see something of that whenever you have a Go Home Show. When you're really trying to emphasize, hey, you need to see this pay-per-view that we're producing and showing to you this upcoming weekend. Because we have these matches on there. They are damned good. You need to go watch them. You need to go see it. Like, there needs to be something. It just lacked this week in their Go Home Show. It did. I think with their Go Home Show for Wrestle Dream, I can't even remember that one. That one, I don't think. I'll put it average. The Go Home Show for All In, I did like that because you had Bryan Danielson talking about how he's going to show everybody that he is still the greatest effing wrestler in the world. You had the talking segment between Will Ospreay and MJF. So again, they know how to do Go Home shows. This one just wasn't it, bud. It just wasn't. And speaking of, let's just get to Full Gear. And again, speaking of, we start off, in my personal opinion, I think they will start off with MJF versus Roderick Strong. And on Dynamite, you had Adam Cole come out here, and you had him basically be interrupted by Kyle O'Reilly. And Kyle told Adam Cole point blank, hey, your obsession with MJF is going to lead you down a dark path. It's not good. I'm just going to let it ride. We're going to see. Hopefully we see what happens. I know it doesn't make sense, but just hear me out. I'll get to it in a minute. MJF versus Roddy, because I want to get back to focus for Full Gear. MJF versus Roddy, I think MJF is winning this. I think Adam Cole's going to get his hands on MJF at World's End, where the Devil Mask crap unveiled happened last year. They're going to run it back, not with the whole unveiling of the mask, but get back to square one with those two and let them have their match at World's End. It'll make sense what happens there. With this match, I think MJF is going to beat Roddy by doing nefarious stuff. I think Adam Cole is going to come out there after the match is over, trying to hit MJF. I think we might get a returning Wardlow to be on the side of MJF, to be honest, because Wardlow, he does have beef with Adam Cole, because I think that MJF is going to run some tape back of Adam Cole looking dirty at Wardlow at the beginning of the year when Wardlow couldn't bring the world title to Undisputed Kingdom. And this would have Wardlow, again, reassign himself with MJF, but just on a business relationship. Nothing personal, nothing of I own you type of business. No, this is I'm here to destroy Adam Cole. Once I'm done with Adam Cole, I'm done with you. And I might even destroy you if you tick me off. That type of business, which I'll be happy with personally, because I think Wardlow is one of their, again, young guys that they had something with, that somehow the AEW just dropped the ball with Wardlow, which is crazy. But I think we might get that. If not that, we're definitely going to get something with Adam Cole going after MJF after that. And we'll just have to wait and see. But with Kyle O'Reilly, with Adam Cole and Roddy, I think we're trying to build back to the Undisputed guys getting back together again. How are they going to do it? I don't know, but we'll wait and see. Jay White versus Hangman Page. This one, I'm going to go with Hangman Page because Jay White is going to be so fixated on trying to make Hangman submit that he's going to have him beat with a Blade Runner. They, again, try to get him with submission. Ain't going to work. Hangman's going to find a loophole to get out of some submission, probably gouge the eye of Jay White, go after said eye, hit Buckeye, get the win. So I'm going with Hangman Page there. Fatal 4-way for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Private Party, the Outrunners, House of Black, which is Malachi Black and Brody King, and the Acclaimed. Private Party just got the tag titles. They're not losing them anytime soon. Private Party's winning this. Who do I think is going to eat the pin, eat the loss? I probably will say the Outrunners because they're just like the newest guys. If not them, I can see the Acclaim. I do not want to see House of Black eat that loss, to be honest with you. But I see Private Party retaining their AEW World Tag Team titles here. Mercedes Moné putting up her TBS Championship against Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander lost TBS title last year here to Julia Hart. It would just be poetic for her to get back the TBS title, but I think Chris is on a path to be a AEW Women's World Champion. So I see her losing to Mercedes here, just so Chris can go after the world title. But Mercedes, I see her winning and retaining the TBS Championship. Swerve versus Bobby Lashley. This is Swerve's first match on pay-per-view since losing to Hangman at All Out, I believe. Yeah, because Wrestle Jamie came back. And this is Bobby's first match on AEW pay-per-view. I want to say we give it to Bobby. Swerve doesn't need the win like that. Bobby's just coming in. Bobby has accolades, but being in a new company, I think Bobby needs the win. Now, Swerve's going to put up a competitive fight with Bobby, in which him losing won't harm him, but I think Bobby's going to win, personally. Jack Perry going against Daniel Garcia for the AEW TNT Championship. I think Jack Perry's going to win this, and I think he's going to win it, and I'm just throwing it out here, thanks to the help of the Death Riders. I think Jack Perry's going to align himself with the Death Riders. I still have that feeling. I think Jack Perry is the guy that Jon Moxley wants Wheeler Yuta to be. A guy that's willing to sacrifice, a guy that's willing to take punishment, a guy that's willing to follow orders, which will serve the greater good. Jack Perry is that guy, and I think he would do that under the tutelage and guide of Jon Moxley. So I think the Death Riders helping Jack Perry out to retain his TNT Championship will make a lot of sense. And Daniel Garcia, it just adds another block on his shoulders to try to get him to overcome to finally win the TNT Championship. So, yeah, Jack Perry, thanks to help of the Death Riders. Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher. I think just like going to Swerve and Bobby, I think Kyle needs this match and needs this win more than Will Ospreay. So I think Kyle Fletcher is going to win this. I think Mark Davis is going to be out by ringside watching this because he still has love for Kyle, even though he doesn't like Kyle working with Don. He has love for Will Ospreay, even though he doesn't like how Will Ospreay is basically fighting with Kyle Fletcher, and he's blaming Will for basically being the guy that opened the door for Don to get his hands on Kyle. I see Kyle Fletcher winning this. Now, do I see them adding a twist of having Mark Davis be the guy to give Kyle Fletcher that win? I can see them doing that, but I don't see them doing that right here. Because if they did that, you put Kyle Fletcher immediately to being back to being a tag team wrestler guy. I see them wanting to push Kyle Fletcher as a singles guy and see how they can go, see how far they can go with him there before they have to revert him back to being a tag team guy if their singles run doesn't work for Kyle. So I see Kyle Fletcher winning this. I don't know if Mark Davis is going to be in it or not, but I'm open-minded to it. Ricochet, Takeshita, AEW International Championship. Takeshita just got it. Just got it. Ricochet, you're eating a loss, brother. Takeshita is going to retain it. I think we're setting up for Takeshita to be Intercontinental Classic with a Ricochet, and I still think at the Wrestle Kingdom in one of their shows, whether it be Wrestle Kingdom or Wrestle Dynasty, we're going to get Takeshita going against Okada. Or we can have that at the end of the Continental Classic, which I'll be happy with that too, but we'll have to wait and see. But this, Takeshita is beating Ricochet. But that, I feel, might just be the match of the night. Ricochet versus Takeshita. I feel that might just be the match of the night. Main event, Jon Moxley, Orange Cassidy, AEW World Championship. Moxley's winning this. We ain't got to even trip about that. Moxley's winning. He's holding on to the AEW World title. Everyone wants to see Darby Allin take the title off of Mox because Darby was supposed to be the guy to face Bryan Danielson for the AEW World title, and he was screwed out of that opportunity. So I think it would be right for Darby to take the title off of Moxley. So Moxley's going to retain over Orange Cassidy, and we're just going to wait and see if whenever they pull the trigger on Darby to take the title off of Mox. So that's your AEW Full Gear predictions. I don't think there's nothing else for me to really talk about. So it's time for me to get you guys out of here. I want everyone to have a great Saturday. You'll hear from me again Sunday tomorrow when I talk about both Full Gear, AEW Full Gear, because again, I'll be dropping an episode of that review of that pay-per-view tomorrow. And as per usual, on my Sunday episodes, I'll be talking about everything that happened in the news. I'll recap important news topics, and I'll just report it to you guys there. So you'll get a double dose episode tomorrow on Sunday. So, with that being said, this has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. He is I and him. I want you guys to have a great, lovely Saturday. Be blessed. You'll hear from me soon. Bye-bye now.